Good evening. You're watching the 7 o'clock English news from the Sultanate Oman Television. First, the headlines. His Majesty Sultan Haitham bin Tariq graced the custodian of the two holy mosques on the occasion of the National Day of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The COVID-19 Supreme Committee decides to lift the closure on the Dhofar Governorate starting on the 1st of October 2020 and extends provided facilities packages for private sector until the end of this year. The Sultan joins the United Nations virtually in its annual celebration of its 75th anniversary and confirms that its foreign policy is based on supporting peace, understanding, positive dialogue and cooperation with all people. And the Sultan hosts the 8th cybersecurity drill for the Arab countries and the member states of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation to enhance readiness to deal with electronic threats. Those are the headlines, and now the news in detail. His Majesty Sultan Haitham bin Tariq sent cable greetings to the custodian of the two holy mosques, King Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, on the occasion of the National Day of the Kingdom. His Excellency Sayyid Hamoud bin Faisal Al Busaidi, Minister of the Interior, chaired this morning a joint meeting of the Supreme Committee in charge of discussing the mechanisms for dealing with the developments resulting from the spread of the coronavirus COVID-19 and the subcommittee concerned with dealing with the economic effects resulting from the pandemic. The Supreme Committee highly appreciated the generous directives of His Majesty Sultan Haitham bin Tariq to chair the meeting of the Supreme Committee last week and His Majesty's affirmation to harness all capabilities to confront this pandemic and limit its effect in order to protect citizens and residents. The Supreme Committee expressed its deep appreciation for the active contribution of PDO in equipping the field hospital and managed its facilities, looking forward to broader participation from the private sector in concerting with the government's efforts to address the pandemic and deal with its effects. The committee also reviewed health and epidemiological indicators and data in the Dhofar Governorate and the efforts made by all sectors to confront this pandemic. And in order to facilitate the movement of citizens and residents, the committee decided to lift the closure on the Dhofar Governorate starting Thursday, 13th Safar 1442 Hijri, corresponding to 1st of October 2020, calling upon all individuals and institutions to adhere to the precautionary and preventive measures to ensure the safety of everyone. To reduce the financial effects on the companies and institutions, especially small and medium enterprises, the Supreme Committee decided to extend the facilities packages related to procedures provided by the government for those institutions in the private sector till the end of the year. The concerned bodies will announce the details of these facilities later. The committee also decided to allow the return of those holding valid residency of the Sultan from October 1st, 2020, provided they undergo a laboratory examination PCR upon return and adhere to a 14-day quarantine. The total number of positive COVID-19 cases in the Sultanate reached 94,711, while the number of recoveries stood at 86,195 at a percentage of 91. Meanwhile, the Minister of Health said the total number of COVID-19 related deaths stood at 865. The progress of developing vaccines for COVID-19 in the world is well realized. We have a report on that by Abdullah Rubai.
Development takes many years, but today we are seeing accelerated timelines coupled with pressure from governments, the media and the public around the world. We spoke to Dr. Ziad bin Al-Khattab Al-Hinai last night on the progress of vaccination of COVID-19, and he said,
Progress on vaccinations for COVID-19 has been proceeding with record speed. It might seem slow to some because it's taking months, but in fact, this would be if approved, these vaccines for COVID-19 would be the quickest developed vaccines in the history of humanity. The reason is that there is a very pressing situation, and there's also a lot of technological advances that have allowed the rapid development of the vaccine. At the same time, we do see a lot of attention to rigorous scientific methods and safety checks and safety measures. And so we are confident that if a vaccine is approved, it should be based on sound science.
And on the number of candidates in 3 clinical trials, he said.
At this point, there's about 9 vaccine candidates in phase 3 clinical trials, which is the last phase of clinical trials. And so it looks likely that at least one or more will get approved. In other words, prove to be safe and efficacious in preventing COVID-19.
Highlighting more on the importance of phase 3 of clinical trial to assess the safety, efficacy and immunogenicity of the potential vaccine for prevention of COVID-19, he said.
Phase 3 is the most important step. It occurs on thousands of people, and this is not only where the vaccine has to be proven to be safe, it also has to show clinical efficacy, meaning that those who received the vaccine in phase 3 are protected or less susceptible to infection than those who did not. This is a demonstration of clinical efficacy, which along with safety allows the vaccine then to be approved for mass distribution and application.
And on the progress of Oman obtaining vaccine in equitable way, Dr. Ziad said,
here in Oman, we are actually happy that the Ministry of Health has joined the Global Alliance, COVAX, to obtain the vaccine in an equitable way and in an expedited way. And so we heard announcements there might be 10 to 20% of the entire population in Oman, Omanis or non-Omanis, secured before the end of 2020. So potentially that is really great news.
In the meantime, we all are required to stick to the masks and social distancing together with hygienic measures so that we can defeat the virus. Abdullah bin Ahmed al-Rubi'i, Sultanate of Oman Television, Muscat.
Based upon the approval by the Supreme Committee entrusted with undertaking measures to tackle developments resulting from the coronavirus COVID-19, the Ministry of Transport, Communications and Information Technology announced it is resuming public transport services in the Sultanate beginning next Sunday, according to the particular dates and conditions. More on that in the following report.
The Ministry indicated in a statement that the public transport services will begin operation between cities on the 27th of September, while services between cities inside the Governorate of Muscat and the Wilaya of Salalah will begin on the 14th and 17th of October, respectively. Oman Air, the national carrier of the Sultanate, announced operating 6 flights per week connecting Muscat with Duqm. Flights to the fast-growing hub of trade and investment will depart and arrive in both cities every day of the week, with the exception of Fridays. These flights, which were restored on the 20th of September, are a significant step forward in the nation's economic development and a reflection of the airline's commitment to serving the Sultanate. As a special economic zone, Duqm plays a vital role in Oman's economic growth. Oman Air maintains its comprehensive safety program to ensure passengers could fly confidently. Masks are required when guests are on board the aircraft and at Oman's airports. Social distancing is maintained while boarding and disembarking. The aircraft are thoroughly cleaned after each flight and at the end of every day. Cabin crew will all wear full sets of personal protective equipment. Meal service has been modified to further ensure safety, and a number of other steps have been taken to make sure that passengers and crews are safe at all times.
The Sultan joined the United Nations in its annual celebrations of its 75th anniversary through virtual communication. His Excellency Sheikh Abdul Malik bin Abdullah Al Khalili, Chairman of the State Council, delivered the Sultan's speech, in which he said that he is honored to convey the gathering with the greetings and best wishes of His Majesty Sultan Haitham bin Tariq, hoping his works redeem success. His Excellency Chairman of the State Council affirmed that the Sultan appreciates the efforts of the United Nations organizations and programs in combating poverty, disease, promoting opportunities for peace and harmony, and achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, as well as its efforts in the field of environmental conservation and addressing climate issues, global warming and extremism and terrorism in various parts of the world. His Excellency concluded the Sultan's speech by stressing that the Sultan will remain an effective partner with the United Nations to further advance the role in achieving its noble goals and purpose in achieving international peace and harmony and building a world of security, stability and prosperity. The Ministry of Labour issued a circular regarding linking the qualifications with wages. The circular stated that the minimum limit of wages linked with academic certificates shall be cancelled, and the minimum limit of wages of 325 Omani Riyals shall remain, regardless of the certificates of job seekers. The decision came within the context of the Minister's Organization of the Labour Market for Omanis, in a way that gives them more opportunities, especially with regard to negotiation with companies on salaries. Still to come, a news bulletin. The Forum of the Omani Students Society in Western Australia was concluded after 7 days of deliberations. Welcome back to the news from the Sultan Oman Television. The Ministry of Finance stressed that Sultan has completed successfully the issuance of local sovereign sukuk that amounted to 200 million Omani Riyals. This came within the government's plan to fund the state's general budget of this year, 2020. The ministry pointed out in a statement that sukuk were enlisted at Muscat Securities Market and are available for trading with annual profit of 5.25% for 6 years. The minister said that the issue gave the opportunity to local Islamic banks and windows, commercial companies, investors and individuals to invest their money in a step to develop the local banking tools and local funding methods. The Ministry of Transport, Communications and Information Technology, represented by the Oman National CERT, organized the 8th cybersecurity drill for the Arab countries and the member states of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. More details in the following report.
With the participation of 25 Arab and regional countries, the Ministry of Transport, Communications and Information Technology, represented by the Oman National CERT, organized the 8th cybersecurity drill for the Arab countries and the member states of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation virtually.
We are organizing this regional cyber drill for the Organization of Islamic Cooperation countries as well as the Arabic countries as an annual practice in order to evaluate the readiness of the National Cybersecurity Center in these countries to respond to cyber attacks. We have seen during the situation of COVID-19 a significant increase in the number of cybersecurity attacks targeting critical national infrastructures in these countries. Therefore, this kind of exercise exercise is going to actually look into scenarios that is simulating cyber attacks towards critical national infrastructures and having it as an opportunity to evaluate the readiness of the centers, at the same time to address the process, the procedures, the measures that can be taken in order to address and respond to the cyber attacks.
The online drill, which was held under the theme Controlling the Cybersecurity Risks Associated with Remote Work, aims to stimulate international cross-border cooperation to deal with cybersecurity incidents in light of COVID-19 pandemic and ways to address cyber risks emerging from government's direction to work remotely.
Today's cyber drill is simulating the cyber risk arising as a result of COVID-19 consequences, which have forced entities, companies to remote work mode. Where many entities were not ready and not prepared to address the risk probably. Today's scenario is simulating an attack happened to an insurance company where one of its employee was targeted by a malicious email, and then after controlling his machine, the attacker propagated to an internal network of the company via exploiting the VPN connections and started finding vulnerabilities in the initial network.
It is worth mentioning that the Organization of Islamic Cooperation has chosen the Sultanate, represented by the Oman National CERT, for the third time in a row to host this drill due to the fact that Oman National CERT is the chairman of the board of directors of the National Centers for Computer Emergency Readiness Teams of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. This annual drill endeavors to keep abreast of the latest developments in the fields of cybersecurity, hacking, and malware. For the Sultanate of Oman Television, Saleh Bukhalfan Al-Rahbi, Muscat.
Within the same theme, cyber attacks are significantly increasing worldwide, especially during COVID-19 pandemic.
Cyber attacks are significantly increasing worldwide, and similarly in Oman. We have seen an increase in this number. We have managed to actually respond to more than 1,800 cybersecurity incidents in Oman. However, on a global scale, we've seen that the cyber crimes is impacting the global economy by around $455 billion a year, and this is anticipated to be increasing more and more. Unfortunately, during the situation of COVID-19, cyber criminals have seen this as a golden opportunity to generate cyber attacks, not only towards individuals, but also targeting critical national infrastructures.
The Ministry of Culture, Sports and Youth organized a work session on governance at sport authorities. The session included main aspects such as concept and establishing the governance principles and importance of the governance for sport authorities. The session also discussed the importance of the governance which allow perfect usage of human and financial resources of the authority, which contributed in achieving the goals, in addition to create a system based on transparency, monitoring justice and proficiency between administrative and executive bodies of the sports authority. The Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Water Resources signed an agreement to support and develop project of honey products industry in the Sultanate with Omani Indian Fertilizer Company in cooperation with FAO's office and Riyadh. The agreement is aimed to support the bee breeders for building joint vision and encourage bee breeding work in sustainable and economic way. After 7 days of discussions covering media content and visual arts, the Forum of the Omani Students Society in Western Australia was concluded. More details in the following report.
To enhance the skills of Omani students in the fields of media and marketing content creation, the Omani Students Society in Western Australia, in collaboration with the Omani Students Society in Victoria, Australia, the Omani Student Advisory Council in the UK, and the Marketing Club at Sultan Qaboos University organized a virtual forum.
The reason is to try and develop modern concepts that can be discussed and advertised both in newspapers and TV in order to attract enhanced people interest, and the event contained a lot of workshops. One of the workshops was Basics in Photoshop program.
Over a period of 7 days, the event included various training sessions run by Omani professionals who have experience and expertise in the fields of media, photography, and digital art.
The aim of this event is to improve the ability of Omani students in fields like graphic design, marketing, digital art, photography, and how to prepare content for TV programs. This event offered workshops which were presented by Omani experts in the mentioned fields, along with sessions showing the students' experience and talent in different fields.
The workshops done by the event have added a good values for me personally, especially the one that discussed self-marketing and branding, as well as the one that discussed how to create content on social media, which exposed many new concepts.
Around 160 students took part in this forum, gaining insights and hands-on experiences about topics including TV reporting, presentation, and marketing. For the Sultanate of Oman Television, Saleh bin Khalfan al-Rahbi.
You're watching the Sultanate of Oman Television. Before we enter tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. His Majesty Sultan Haitham bin Tariq greets the custodian of the two holy mosques on the occasion of the National Day of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The COVID-19 Supreme Committee decides to lift the closure on the Dhofar Governorate starting on the 1st of October 2020 and extends provided facilities packages for private sector until the end of the year. The Saudi joins the United Nations virtually in its annual celebration of its 75th anniversary and confirms that its foreign policy is based on supporting peace, understanding, positive dialogue and cooperation with all people. And the Sultan hosts the 8th cybersecurity drill for the Arab countries and the member states of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation to enhance readiness to deal with electronic threats. And with that, we come to the end of tonight's news bulletin from all of us here in the newsroom in the studios. Good night.